LinkedIn Recruiter is a product that was built for recruiters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside a LinkedIn Recruiter. I'm going to do a demonstration and show you as a recruiter, what do I look at when I'm looking for you as a candidate. So I'm going to give you some suggestions and ideas of ways that you can boost your LinkedIn profile, things that you can do to make yourself a little bit more accessible to people like myself, things that you can do to heighten your awareness on LinkedIn. Okay? But before we do so, number one, I'm here for you today. This is not about me, okay? I'm so happy to be here with you all today, but this is not about me, okay? If you've got a question that you've always wanted to ask a recruiter, you've got it here or you got it in the next hour. But that's what you get from me today, is I will tell you complete transparency, what's going on. I won't make up an answer. But I'm here for you, number one. How did I get here? What gives me the qualifications even to talk to you today? Many of you have extraordinary qualifications as well. But my background is a little unique as a recruiter because I've not been a recruiter my whole life. I was a hiring manager. So I started off in the Pepsi-Cola system. And then I went to work for Dr. Pepper 7-Up. And then I was recruited by AT&T. And then I did some startup technology stuff. And then I went to a company called Intervoice. And then I got a phone call on the 4th of July that said, Kurt, we have decided to eliminate your job. After you get back from vacation, go talk to HR and negotiate your severance package. Well, that's when I decided I was done working for people. I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want to go on vacation and have to worry about that call that my boss was going to call me and tell me, Kurt, we don't need you anymore. So I decided to start my own business, and I went into recruiting. Many people told me I'd fail because I'd never done it before. But here I am 15, 16 years later, now recognized by Forbes. I don't pay for that. My hair on my arms is standing up because I'm so humbled by it. To be recognized as a single shingle by Forbes magazine as high as number 9 in the United States is unbelievable. I'm competing against Stanton Chase, Korn Ferry. I mean, organizations that have worldwide offices, okay? What makes me different? Maybe it's because I do what I do here with you today. Maybe it's because of what I do with people every day. But I hope that I can share something with you today that will help you feel more confident when you leave or give you a tool that you can use to take back to the office, okay? Now, I probably should have done some of this other early work, and I didn't, but I need to get on the internet, don't I? What internet are we? SCC Public. SCC Public. Connect. Jeff is my wingman, so as we go through this here today, Jeff, I want you to jump in anytime you've got any ideas or suggestions. Okay, so this is my LinkedIn front page. Okay, everybody can see it, I hope. And then over here, there's a little button called Recruiter. So what is LinkedIn Recruiter? We started to talk a little bit about it. A long time ago, Korn Ferry, we all know about CRMs and all that, right? Well, as a recruiter, when I go to talk to a new company, I've got a presentation today at 2 o'clock. Pray for me. A new client. New clients are good for my business. But when I go to a new client, they always ask me, what's your database? What's your database? And I kind of have to skirt around it because not every recruiting firm has a huge CRM anymore. Maybe if you're in one specific dig, which is accounting, or maybe in something very specific. But Korn Ferry went to LinkedIn and said, we want you to help us develop a database. We want you to help us develop a tool that we can use in the recruiting industry, because every day when we turn off the lights, our data, our network, our information is outdated. Because you all change around, you move around a lot. And you may not think about sending a resume to Korn Ferry to say, hey, update my resume, put this one in your system. I don't want you to use the old one. So that's how this product got developed, okay? So today, I spend a lot of money to use this product, okay? But what it gives me access to is 100% of the network, okay? So as many people are on LinkedIn, I can find anybody. I'm not blocked by anybody or anywhere. No connections unless you've told me you don't want to talk to me or you don't want to talk to recruiters, okay? So my network is extraordinary. So I'm going to go to Recruiter, and we go into my contract, and we're going to get this page that shows all the different projects that I've got. So, and I didn't move through that purposely. It's not confidential. It's some of the companies that I'm working on. So it is a mini CRM because I can put candidates into projects and I can manage them and so forth, okay? So as a recruiter, it gives me a way to stay organized, to keep my candidates organized and keep everything in a good place, in one place. But where I spend more of my time is right here, and this is where we're going to go through some of the search tools that I can use as a candidate, okay? First, any questions? Any questions? And if you've got a question, you're thinking it's a stupid question, I'm telling you it's not, because there's 5 other people that have that same question. Yes?
Do you use ATS in conjunction with this, or is this sort of your...
This is my ATS, yeah. Yeah, I do, exactly. I was in a spin class the other day, and I asked a question to the spin instructor about if I crank this up a little bit more, will it help me get to my RPMs? And she said, that's a great question. Does anybody else have that question? And 4 people raised their hand, and there were only 9 people in the class. So, and I've been spinning for 15 years. My point is, if you've got a question, ask it, and you can just raise your hand, and we'll stop right there. Question. Can I zoom in? I don't know if I can or not. Yeah, there we go. Does that help? Okay. So just a real quick overview, okay? What this is it gives me the ability to go in and build out a search for what I'm looking for, okay? So I can look at job titles, I can look at locations, I can workplace types, skills and assessments. I can put in company names. If I'm looking for particular candidates that came out of schools, I can look at schools. I can do industries, keywords. We can build Boolean searches, so I can say, I'm looking for manufacturing, not hardware, and software, in quotes, so I can build a string of Boolean that will help me, find keywords in people's, in their profiles. Employment type, what types of employment? Is this a part-time, full-time? Do they have a degree? And then I can go into all other kinds of things as far as language, postal codes, profile languages, years of experience, years in a current company. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary. Would you all agree that gives me a lot of things to search on? So as a recruiter, and there are some recruiters in here, so I want you to also keep me in check. Paige, where are you at? She and I had a conversation. Yep, right here. Paige worked for a staffing organization. I don't know if you use LinkedIn Recruiter.
Yeah, I use LinkedIn Recruiter a lot.
Good. So keep me honest. If you've got something that I can add to my portfolio of content, then that would be great. But keep me honest as well. So the bottom line is when I start a search, and most recruiters start a search, we want a big funnel, okay? We want to start with, 500 candidates, 400 candidates, okay? Because I can look at 200 or 300 candidates in a couple of hours, believe it or not. And you'll see how quickly I can go through these things. But I can't look at 4,000, okay? So when I get into that 1,000 category, then I've got to figure out a way to add something else into my search to take that number down a little bit. But Jeff, give me a search. You are really good at this. So it starts to pull up, there's product manager, okay? But you can see that there's a lot of other things that a product manager could be called. Has anybody been using GPT-IA? Okay, do you like it? Love it. Go in there and just put your job title and say, give me job titles that are like mine. Okay? Chat GPT. Because it may give you 20 titles that are similar to what you're calling yourself. And now you can find a way to get those key words into your LinkedIn profile and into your resume so that you'll come up higher into searches, okay? Because, yeah, I'm looking for a product manager, but a product category manager is pretty close. Director of product development, that's pretty close. Senior product specialist, that's pretty close. New product development manager. So I got some titles that I can go to. But now I can go, do I want somebody that's currently doing that, or did they do it in their past? I want to start big, so I'll put in both. If I need to wean it down, I can come back and just put in current, okay? What location we want? Denver. We select these cities so that you're not going to find all your friends. We want somebody that lives currently. Anytime I've got to relocate a candidate, it just adds a lot of hair to it, okay? I'm working on a CEO search down in South Texas, longer than I've ever worked on a search, $75 million family business in the, and if any of you meet this, see me afterwards, in the hardware like Ace hardware distribution, wholesale business, and they're in a very remote town, and they sell to all the small hardware stores all over the Southwest, okay? And we made an offer to a candidate, little lesson. We made an offer to a candidate. He knew what the offer was going to be because we talk about it. I don't go into, okay, you like this candidate, let's make an offer. Now let's talk about numbers. They know the numbers, the company knows the numbers, the candidate knows the numbers, all from the very beginning. Well, this candidate went in, he knew the numbers, and I'm just going to tell you it was a package around $700,000, okay? And he wanted to negotiate. Well, day 3, you'll find Kurt is done negotiating, okay? Because I'm now sitting in the seat of the chairman of the board thinking, if this guy wants to negotiate with me, what's going to happen when he gets into this company and what's he going to be like? He's going to want to negotiate. So what did I do? I called the company and said, we're done. We're going to let this candidate go and we're going to find the right candidate. Second candidate, 2 months later, he wasn't honest about his background check. If you're going to interview for a CEO search or CEO job, if you've got something that you don't want anybody to see in your background, you better tell us up front. Because I'm going to do a thorough background check. I'm going to do a credit check. It's going to give me a complete history of everything. Bankruptcies. I'm going to get all of it, okay? And I'm going to turn it over to the company, not me. I'm just going to review it. Did we pass or not pass? I'm going to do a drug screen. We're going to do it all. So second candidate failed. Now we're looking for the next one, okay? And they haven't fired me yet. And that is a godsend, okay? That is a godsend. So, little tidbits along the way, but just cover your backside. We're looking in Denver. Relocation is hard. Now, what kind of company are we looking for, Jeff? You want to be a... We don't need to put a company in because we got a title.
You want to put a keyword in, maybe?
Put a keyword in. Let's go food. Okay, that might not be, yeah, I got 1.2 million candidates. So I'm going to shrink this screen for a minute here, okay? And we don't have to worry about that because...
Sorry for the question. I like your example of the chat title thing.
Yeah.
Saying like, give me 20 titles for this, and what was the comp that you were talking about?
Yeah, so you just put in your job title and say, give me titles that are similar to this.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. And again, you may not use those titles in your resume, and it may not be the head of your resume because it might now be 40 names, okay? But you can take those key words and put those into your LinkedIn profile, which is where we're going to find you. Make sense? keywords, y'all, is critical. We'll talk about that a bunch throughout the presentation, but keywords are critical. If you haven't started a list in the back of your notebook of all the keywords that describe what you've done and the people that things that you've done and accomplishments you've had, then putting those into LinkedIn is critical. You should be doing it every week. I tell a story about route settlement. I came out of the beverage industry. Route settlement. Who's ever heard of route settlement? Okay. Foster has, okay? Well, I wouldn't necessarily put in my LinkedIn profile today, but I worked for Board and Dairy a number of years ago, and I was looking for somebody in route settlement. And there are a few people that put it into their LinkedIn profile. Okay, enough of that. Here we go. Ready to start looking at candidates. So we got 1.2 million candidates that are in that search. 394 of them are open to work. 183 are active talent. And 4 are rediscovered candidates. That's a new one for me. Rediscovered candidates, Jeff, have you heard that? No. That's new. So if I'm going to shrink this down again, because what I want to do is show you a couple more things. Is that
what's active talent?
That is, we're going to go look. I think what you're going to see is something you all had a question about. But maybe, yeah. Some way these candidates have identified that they're open to new opportunities. When is that? Open to work. I don't know what active talent is. This is new. This is brand new. I've not seen this before.
LinkedIn changes
Every day they change it.
Thanks, Microsoft.
100%. Okay, so let's see. This is different. You guys got me here. Okay, so chief product manager, location, workplace types. So this is the new piece, is that this open to work, it used to be a button that I could select on the side. I could select that I only want to look at candidates that are open to work. What this is doing is it's telling me that if I want to look at just those candidates, I need to click that box, is what it's doing.
You know that active talent may be people who are more likely to respond. Remember, they have that function.
Ah,
I think that's it.
good point.
Working in that field already?
I'm sorry?
Actively working in that field already?
Could be.
You can say also on your profile, you get that green banner that says,
Well, that's open to work.
so that's open to work.
I Googled it.
Yeah.
It's members who recently updated their LinkedIn profiles, chose to share a resume with recruiters, been in their current roles longer than the average 10 other roles.
Jeff? Wow, we just got schooled today.
Or they
I love that.
Ready for next Tuesday.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you for sharing that, Paige. Thanks for research. That's really makes a lot of sense. Remember the old days when you used to update your profile and send a note to everybody that said, Kurt just updated your profile? Well, they don't do any more of that. But this is a good place for us to then identify candidates that may be actively looking. Okay, so let's just look at Ryan real quick.
Just a question.
Yeah.
So you don't want to update your LinkedIn profile if you're doing a confidential search?
No, you want to update it all the time. No. You want to update but you don't have to worry about if you're doing a confidential search that's going to notify everybody in your network, okay? And the chances that you update your profile, you're doing a confidential search, you update your profile, and now you show up in that active file now, the chances of somebody that's a recruiter in your company clicking on that and finding you is 99.999% not going to happen. So update your profile, 100%.
And if I can interject, you can actually turn off that setting so it doesn't notify everyone in your network when you're up your profile, because I've had to do that in my past. So you should do that anyway.
Yep. So can you see Ryan here? So Ryan's got, he's got a picture. That's good. He's open to new opportunities. He's probably self-selected the button without putting the green wreath around him, okay? He's got a really nice summary section, okay? The only thing that I can tell you is that a couple things on the summary. Best unused real estate on the internet, okay? Do not cut and copy your cover letter. Don't cut and paste your resume in here. This is a place for you to put keywords in and for you to write and use your words to tell the stories of who you are and what you've done. But what's missing from this, and I think it's 1,500 characters. We go around 1,200. 2,200, okay. So The one thing that's missing here, though, is a really critical piece. And if you don't write this down and go home and make the change, if you're actively looking for a job, then you're making a big mistake. The big thing missing is Ryan doesn't have his phone number and his email address in here for me, okay? If he is actively looking, he should have that information in there so that I can get out of LinkedIn and call him directly.
I appreciate that point, but what about the full spam?
Well, and I get that.
Phone number's safety.
Yeah, but there's an easy fix for that. Get a Google Voice number.
Right.
That way it bounces over so your personal cell phone never goes out.
Right. Great solution. Email address. If you don't want to put both, put your email address, okay? You don't have to answer the email if it's something that's not ethical, okay? So, but one or the other. Go ahead.
So, appreciate the summary. I'm wondering, I'm in a kind of unique dilemma, right? So, I have the experience of that can lead a recruiting department, but there are not as many jobs doing that as opposed to just being a recruiter and an individual contributor. Is there a way to sort of be able to bridge that in my summary or any advice there?
So you are used to leading teams of recruiters, but you're open to an individual contributor role.
Right.
Okay. So there is a little dilemma there, but I think that what I would do is I would talk in my summary about my leadership, but then I would dedicate a whole paragraph or a whole section on my ability to be an individual contributor, how I did that, growing revenue, new clients, using the KPIs that are going to be effective for somebody that's looking for a recruiter. Okay. That would be my suggestion.
Great.
Now, that'd be my best suggestion, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other question?
Does it matter if you put the contact information at the top or the bottom?
Best at the bottom. That's where we look for it, but it can go anywhere. Because when I'm scanning, it didn't take me a second to look at that and go, there's no numbers in there and there's no ats. So I have to send an in-mail to this candidate. And why don't I want to send an in-mail? Because guess what? Only 7% of you guys reply to in-mails. 7%. Okay? It's pathetic. Okay? So if I'm looking at 100 profiles and I send 100 notes out, do the math, 7 of those people are going to get back to me. Now, thankfully, my numbers are a little bit better, and I'm up in the 19% because I'm not the average. But I'm not at 25 or 30%. Nobody is, okay? So when you give me your contact information, email or phone number, bam, you're out of LinkedIn, and now I call you immediately. Doug, I know I got you in the middle of your drive home. Do you have a minute to talk? Or I text you, and I call you. Or I email you, text you, and call you. Because I want to talk. Question?
Oh, just from that perspective of, is it better if you're a first level with someone? I mean, and how often does it happen on searches that you're a first level with a candidate that you're looking at?
Not, yeah. And I'm connected. I didn't put it up there, but my network is pretty, I'm not, where'd it go? Where'd you go, Jeff? Yeah. Wait, maybe I'm up here. Hold on.
You want to talk for a second?
There we go.
You haven't mentioned about how this APIs are sitting separately. Nobody knows that you're being looked at.
That's correct. Yeah, so the way that this project was built was that because I just gave you not my secret sauce, but I just told you I'm looking at hundreds of candidates every day. I don't show up anywhere, y'all. Okay, so don't go home and look at who's looked at your profile and think for a minute that I was one of those people. Because you can't see me. I'm completely invisible. And I have to be, because I spend a lot of money with LinkedIn every year, okay? And if every candidate that I looked at sent me a note and said, hey, Kurt, I saw you just looked at my profile, let's talk, I'd never get anything done. So I am completely invisible. And that is how LinkedIn built the product for recruiters. They built a separate set of APIs. on top of LinkedIn, the database. And so they sync into LinkedIn, and that gives me visibility to 100% of the network. But you as a candidate, when I'm using LinkedIn Recruiter, can never see me. Now, there's another product out there that I'm starting to use a little bit, testing it. It's called Sinecure. My son is involved in the product. It's a recruiting tool, and it's all AI driven, okay? And so when I go to his product, and I want to look at your profile on LinkedIn, I click that LinkedIn button, and I go to regular LinkedIn, and you can see me then, okay? But there are some new products that are coming out that are, using the AI technology and all of the keyword searches to help find candidates in different places than recruiters have been able to find them in the past, okay? One of the jobs I'm trying to fill right now is I'm looking for an inventor, a genius inventor, right? Out of the manufacturing industry. Really? And you know what they got to do? I got to just tell you the story because it's just a cute story. It's a company that's in the robotic space. And you know what they want? They want 6 inventors, geniuses. So I'm looking not for 1, I'm looking for 6 actually. If I can find 1, I'll be really happy. The first one though, okay, afterwards I want it. When I tell you what they're looking for, so this company's got 6 different divisions. One of them is a cannabis division. And they don't grow it or sell it. All they do is they're a co-packer, okay? And they want a genius inventor that can figure out a way to take a leaf of marijuana and get all the buds off of it with a robot. Because today it's being done by hand, and it's very expensive, and it's not good at what they do. And we could sell probably 1,000 robots if we could find a genius inventor that could bring those engineering skills to the table to help build that product. Okay, hard to fill jobs, guys. It's not a lay down. Okay, so let's go back here. So we talked about the phone number, email address. He's open to work. Why hasn't he not put the green ring around his? Is it pride? Do all of you have it on? Why don't you? Because it's confidential. May not want somebody to know. That's the right answer. That's probably the best answer. But if you're actively looking for a new job, why wouldn't you put it on? And here's why. You would. Let's say that 8 years ago, you used to work for Dr. Pepper 7-Up, and one of the admins there is now working for another consumer products company, and she's the admin. She's not in recruiting, and they're looking for a new CMO, and it's a 911. They cannot find anybody to do this job. Recruiters have not brought on the right talent. Well, this admin works for the CEO, so what is she going to do in her spare time? She's going to go to LinkedIn. She doesn't have access to LinkedIn Recruiter. She's going to go to her own network. And let's say she starts scrolling, and she comes across Wool. She comes across Wool's, and he's got the umbrella on it, or the green around him. She's like, man, he was the best CMO we ever had. I had no idea that he was actively looking. Sends him a note and says, hey, Wool, would you be interested? We're looking for a new CMO. She wouldn't have clicked on him or thought about him, maybe, if she hadn't seen that green. Would you consider going home and putting that on now? Maybe. Just a suggestion. It tells recruiters, it tells everybody you're actively looking. Now, Ryan, I know is because he's in that category. He's telling recruiters, but he hasn't turned on the green. I highly recommend it for not reasons for recruiters, because he's already in that bucket, but for friends and other people that come across your LinkedIn profile.
Kurt, I just want to reiterate on that too. If you think about a recruiter's day, and Matt Harrington, hi. They're trying to manage working several jobs, and if they may call some candidates that end up being passive, and they spend a lot of time with them, and at the end of the day, it doesn't move forward. If you put that on there, they know you're not passive. Right. They know you're looking, and they will call you first because it increases their chances of getting to the right candidate faster, along with putting your contact information, because if there's 6 candidates that come up and yours doesn't have contact information and they have to go dig for it, you may never get a call.
That's right. Absolutely, 100%. And that, listen, the contact information, once you get the next job, take it out, okay? It doesn't have to stay there forever. But for the next 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, for the next week, try it and see if the phone rings. Give it a try.
This is kind of reverse of that. What's the best way to put together a list of recruiters using the information as a...
Yep.
This is at lowly, oh, I'm sorry. What's the best way to put together a list of recruiters? Because I don't want to take a passive approach. I want to take an active approach.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to look for ways that I can automate putting together a list of recruiters. Maybe 1,000 or 2,000 recruiters. What
You
would be
do
the
that
best
through
way to do that?
ChatGPT.
Okay, okay.
You could.
Okay.
But here's the reality, because I just don't, I'm sorry, James?
Jim, yeah.
Jim, I just don't want to waste anybody's time here. I'm not suggesting that this is not a good idea, okay? Because when you're looking for a new opportunity, there's no bad ideas, okay? We take the blinders off 100%, right? But recruiters will find you when they need you and they want you. Most recruiters, Jim, when you call their office or you send a resume in, it's going to go to a black hole. And it's only because that recruiter's not working on a job or not working on a position that's right for you at the time.
I realize that, but I've found, because I do direct marketing, I've found that, that may be all true, but if you've got enough names.
Well, there's no question. I mean, it's like my 3-year-old grandson trying to throw darts, okay? But all you need is one.
That's all you need.
And I got a video where he threw one and it went in the bullseye. So Jim, I don't disagree with that. I think I'm going to give you a quick suggestion. I think it's appropriate. We got time, don't we? Okay. Because I haven't seen the 10-minute warning yet. We got a lot of stuff to cover here. But one of the tools that I recommend to candidates that they use as an active candidate, you're actively looking for a job, you've got a network of people that you've worked with. Make a list in an Excel spreadsheet of everybody that you've worked with, worked for, people you met on airplanes, people you met at the bar while you were traveling, people you met at conventions, people you meet, anybody that you've got business cards, the old Rolodex. Pull them out of your Rolodex, put them into an Excel spreadsheet. Some of you may have 1,000 names, okay? And over the next 30 days, what I want you to do is I want you to call every one of those people. Every one. Hey, Jack. Kurt here, actively looking for a new job. I trust our relationship, and if you've got a minute, call me back. I'd love to chat with you about some of the companies I'm looking at. Just a short message. Ideally, you want to get the people live so you can have a conversation, but if you have to, you leave a quick message. Call me back, I'd love to talk to you. Remember, people are busy. We're in the summer, okay? They're on vacations, going places, doing things. So if you don't get a call back right away, it's all right. You can send a text that says, I'd like to chat with you for 4 minutes. Okay?
Can you send a video?
Could.
I mean, I've done that before.
Yeah.
Part of the reason I'm here is because Foster sent a video, very good one.
Yeah.
And boom.
Videos are very powerful. Absolutely. So 30 days, we go through that list. We've made calls to every one of those people or left messages. We checked that box. 30 days, we've done what we were supposed to do. Well, guess what? Now it's not over. Now is your marketing newsletter, okay? So now every month you take all of those names and you put them all into a BCC. No 2s, no CCs. Put 400 in at a time, 300 in at a time, okay? And what does it say? What does it say? It says in the subject, I call this the prayer letter. Have you ever gotten the prayer letter? It says, read this prayer 10 times, send it to 10 people, or in the 10 minutes, or you're going to die and go to hell. Sorry, Pastor, if you're still here. Well, my prayer letter is this. In the subject, it says, great people know great people. And then in the body, it says, I continue to actively look for a new opportunity. And some of the target companies that I'm looking at include, and you give them 3 or 4 companies. If you or anybody in your network has contacts with these companies, or companies like these, I'd greatly appreciate an introduction. Feel free to forward this note on to anybody in your network, and I'll be back in touch in 30 days. If there's anything I can do for you or a friend, call at any time. We always want to pay it forward. Okay? I'll be back in touch in 30 days. I think I said that. Okay? You send that. How much time does that take? It takes literally about 12 minutes, maybe, once a month, after you've done all the painstaking of making the calls. Will you get a return email from everybody right away? No. But over the next 30, 60, 90 days, it works. Okay? This is your network. Your network is your net worth. Okay? So use it. Tell the people what you're looking for. Don't send a resume. Resumes get sent when they ask for a resume. Resumes kick you out of more jobs than you'll ever imagine. Okay? So only send a resume when you're asked for a resume. Any questions about the prayer letter? I could tell you success stories all day long about it. It works, and I highly encourage you to take a look at it. Okay, so let's go back up here.
Do you have the text of it?
What I just gave you?
Yeah.
Jeff Morse has got it on his website.
Yeah, send me an email and I'll be glad to.
There you go. See? Did I tell you Jeff was my wingman? Okay, so now we can go through and see what Ryan has done. So he's done a really good job of giving us a lot of detail about the jobs that he's had. Product manager, you can see, is highlighted in here a number of different times. And he's given us a great review of his background. I mean, this is one of the better LinkedIn profiles, and I'm not reading all of it, but you can see where he has just got all kinds of keyword channel partners and end users, customer mind share, decreasing quoting burden, application engineering, I mean, just a lot of great words. And then he puts the skills thing at the bottom, which is outstanding as well. So, I mean, I really do compliment Ryan on his LinkedIn profile. The only thing that I would probably do is, maybe for a reason, he hasn't put the green around his head, and then I'd put my contact information in there. Okay? Let's go on to, let me sure I don't shut. Whoa, that was what I was afraid of. Any questions? I'm scanning the audience. Paige?
So you were mentioning reaching out to recruiters and prayer letter and everything, but I'm wondering what my looking for recruiters, the harder for staffing always works for. So I don't know what my should be.
Because you're transitioning from, so Paige is in the recruiting industry staffing, and she's trying to move over to the customer experience side of it, okay? So the bridge that she's going to build is the fact that she's really good at communication. She should be if she's a recruiter talking to people, okay? She knows how to listen really well and decipher key points. She knows how to listen for the objections, okay? So what she's attempting to do, and this is a good exercise for everybody, is if you're here today and you're in a category and you're trying to get over here, you're trying to make the change that our pastor was talking about earlier. In order to get to that change, you've got to help the company build the bridge between those two jobs and let them know what you've done over here that's similar to what's going to be done or what they're expecting you to do here. Now, that's a little bit more difficult on the executive level when you get up a little bit higher because, you know, a lot of people, as they age through their career, they want to go into philanthropic organizations. And then they get into philanthropic and they go, what was I doing? That's just crazy. But, you know, there's a natural bridge there because you came out of corporate America as an executive. But philanthropic organizations run a lot differently than businesses do. So it can be really frustrating for people. But that's the bridge that I would try to build, Paige. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go on to another. So here's Bob. Okay, Bob has given us the green ring. He's got a good summary. He doesn't have his email address and phone number in there. Okay, food is coming up quite often. I can quickly see the brands that he worked for. If there's a brand that I don't know and I'm not familiar with, like Gold Star Sausage, I can click on that and it'll take me to It should take me to their, okay, that's not right. It should take me to their page so that I can, it should take me to their company page so I can see what they do, what business they're in, and then I can also see other people that work for that company, okay? So let's go to questions. Anybody else? Is this helpful?
Do recruiters ever listen to the audio, the little 10-second audio clip you can put on?
I don't, but maybe, I'm sure recruiters do. For some jobs, that may be really important. I don't. Yeah, that's a good question.
Curious, Kurt, how you feel about, like, as a job seeker, opportunity, what are your thoughts about DMing people that might be a part of that organization involved in?
DMing.
Direct message. Well, not necessarily.
Oh.
I mean, it could be email, it could be Facebook, just directly.
So state your question again.
Yeah, so I'm a job seeker.
Yep.
And I find an interesting opportunity
Yes.
that I have applied for. And I would go out maybe on LinkedIn and try to find people within the organization that I think might be associated with that particular requisition.
That's right.
Any thoughts or opinion on my reaching out to them directly?
100%.
Okay.
100%. But here's where I would go first. I love to, if I'm interested in a company, and maybe I've submitted my resume, maybe I haven't yet. I just found this opportunity. I've got a half an hour. It's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody's going to look at their email at 7 o'clock tonight. So I'm going to take the first couple of hours, and I'm going to look for somebody that I can connect with that used to work for that company. Why did you leave? What was the culture like? I like the brand, but is it got a good reputation? Do their customers like what they're doing? Then I would go to somebody, if you can, again, that works for the company, and it's just, hey, there's a couple of open positions I'm really interested in, and I'm not asking you to take my resume in, but what are your thoughts? I mean, why hasn't this job been filled? And see if you can get any G2 there. All of the information that we gather in those conversations are never going to be information that we use in an interview. Hey, I talked to a guy that used to work here, and he told me that the culture was very shitty, and I could make it a big improvement in it. So we're never going to use the information, but we can go into the interview knowing that they may have a culture issue, and we can tell about stories that we've done and things that we've done in our business before that has helped improve culture, and that will ring a bell.
As a follow-on, is it, I was just going to say, is it better to not necessarily apply to the position before having that conversation in case they want to make a referral and get a referral bonus?
Yeah. So both. You want to do both. But I would, if it's a job that's been around a while, why has it been there? Okay. If it's been around a while, I might just go ahead and submit an application. If it's a new job, I probably want to strategically get in front of or try to find who the hiring manager is so that I can develop a relationship with that person. Yep.
Okay, question about the piece of paper from higher education institutions. Traditionally, there's been a glass ceiling if you don't have one to get to manager, director, C level. Are you still seeing that, or with the lack of talent in some technology sides, is that changing?
The CEO that we made the offer to second hadn't even graduated from college. Okay? Now, the company wanted somebody that graduated from college. That was one of their prerequisites, but they liked this guy so much that they were willing to oversee that. And so, as a recruiter, that's my job, is to try to help sow a relationship. And not that I overlook those things, but yeah, I understand he doesn't have a college education, but look at what he did for those 6 years that he didn't go to school, okay? That is really imperative to the success of your business. So,
in that same vein, could you talk a little bit from the perspective of a recruiter looking at what is required versus what is preferred? I know a lot of us as job seekers probably hold back because we see requirements that may have a degree or type of certification,
Right,
but I get mixed opinions
right.
that it may be worth a shot.
Absolutely. As a job seeker, absolutely. You're already used to getting hurt, you hearing the word no. So you hear it one more time. Absolutely. But, one of the things I will share with you on resumes is that when I graduated from college, my father owned a printing company, and he was so excited about that he typeset my resume. Okay? Nobody typesets their resume, but my dad did. He had mine typeset. Well, you can't make any changes to it because it's all typeset. Today we can make changes. So, there's triggers of those job requirements that may not be in your resume. I did that. I've got that. Or I went to that certification, or I didn't go to that certification, but I did this one instead. So help fill in the gaps and help. So the recruiter wants to fill that job. When we talk about the number of jobs that recruiters have, I used to work with T-Mobile. Some of those recruiters, they may have 80 or 90 job recs on their desk at a time, okay? I've got 5 or 6, okay? So they want to fill those jobs, so do as much as you can to help, not lie, but help them along the way. And that could be not necessarily in a cover letter, but in the letter you send, the email you send.
I
Does that
also
help?
want to point out that there is also a gender gap in this, that men will, if they're only qualified for 60%, they'll go ahead and apply. But women are looking for 99 to 100%. So ladies, we got to step up and start taking these jobs.
Right. Good point. Good point.
So a follow-up to like when you submit, you see the job and 800 people, it shows on LinkedIn how many people have already applied.
Right.
Is that a true number?
Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah.
I thought it was just how many people clicked on it.
No. Because, well, I'll verify that page.
800 or 600 people. I don't know, I've talked to some employees and they're like, okay, we took the first 100 and we look at those and then we'll go to the next.
Oh, I'd look at all of them because it only takes me a few seconds to look at every one of them to see if they really are qualified and they've got the background of what I'm looking for. I mean, I don't post and pray because my job is when a company hires me, they expect me to go find that candidate. But I do post so that I can see what's out there, and it gives me insight into, hey, you've got a great background. What's your salary? How many years? What kind of compensation plan are you on? So it gives me some benchmarks that I can use. But most of the work that recruiters do is actively going out. But when I can post a job and find 2 or 3 candidates that have the experience, absolutely. And if I had to go through 800, I would. But I would tell you that today, when I post a job, I may get 30, where 2 years ago, I would get 150. When we post jobs, I tell companies it's not worth it anymore. You've got to go find these candidates. And then I come to a meeting like this and I see all these talented people here. It's like, where are you when I'm looking for you? Why aren't one of you in Tucson to take an accounting role? Yes, sir.
Can you give some wisdom on like a desirable position that got posted 12 hours ago and there's 75 applicants already applied? Like kind of just you're casting a net.
Well, when I can't. No, because again, I mean, if I would show you one of the funnels that I was looking at, maybe that has 90 people in it, or 100 people, I'll look at every one of those, and I keep going back. If I'm not finding the right people, I keep going back and look at it. If I missed something, if I missed somebody, I'm not sure that answers your question. I think you need to reply, and I think this gender thing is really an important one for males versus females. That's a really interesting point I'd never thought about.
On the applications, a lot of times there is what is your salary? What do you expect in
Right.
salary? Does that ever impact what you're looking at? Let's say they don't have anything in, specifically, but you list $70,000. Is that gonna take you out of jobs if, you know, that you're looking for somebody between 50 and 65?
Because I don't ask that question personally, but you can ask that question in LinkedIn Recruiter. You can put salary and all that. I don't ask it because I want to find you. I want to have a conversation. I want to know what you're making. The CEO search that I'm working for down in South Texas, we're looking for somebody that's about $300,000 base, okay? But I'm talking to candidates that are 170, 175, 200. Well, and I present those in the family. This is how amazing this family is. They're like, but we're going to pay you based on 300,000. I was like, no, you're not. If I place a candidate for 200,000, I'm going to bill you based on that because I get paid based on a percentage. So I'm not taking candidates out because they don't make enough. They're not close enough to that 300 number. If I could put somebody in there that will knock it out of the park and they only make $190,000 and I don't get paid on 300, I'm happy because the family's happy. I'm happy. We've created a win-win situation. And they'll hire me again. That's right. Or they'll tell their friends. Yep. Questions? We are about out of time. Yes, sir.
What makes a candidate really stand out? So you put this funnel and then you go down to like 100. You know, how does one stand out?
Well, when I can call that candidate and have a conversation about what are the biggest problems that I'm trying to solve, and in that conversation, you know, I might share with you that this is what I'm looking for, boom, 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 boom. And these are the biggest problems I'm trying to solve. Can you share with me a story or two that demonstrates your ability to do that work? And now it's up to you. Go back to the pit crew. You better be able to communicate quickly with recruiters because we make a lot of phone calls. We talk to a lot of people every day. Candidates get mad at me because they say, I already sent you my resume. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, I do have a few things going on. But I try not to ghost candidates. I try not to. If I ever have, I apologize up front for that. But that is the biggest recommendation. If you're driving down the road and you get a phone call from a number that you don't recognize, and you're going 75 miles down the hour down the road and you got your family in your car, do you pick up that call because you're desperate to find a job, or do you say, I'm just going to let it go to voicemail and I'm going to pull over to the next gas station, I'm going to listen to that voicemail, and I'm going to determine whether or not I need to call that guy back or that person back again. If you're taking calls on the fly, you may be doing yourself a disservice because you don't have time to prepare for it. You don't have time to anticipate what their questions might be.
Curious, can you share from a recruiter perspective, just the timing, days of the week, afternoon versus mornings of when you're at the top of your game looking at candidates that we can swoop in for the win?
No, because every day is different for me.
Okay.
Yeah, every day is different for me, and yeah, I mean, I just got back from 4 or 5 days with my kids up in Maine, and so if you had tried to reach me last week, it would have been a very short, sorry, not now. Can you call me next week? And I'm not afraid to tell a candidate that. I'd love to talk to you, but now's not the time.
So if we apply on a Tuesday versus a Friday versus a Monday, it really doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yep.
Hi there. I wanted to know what are the top 3 skills. It's me.
Sorry.
The top 3 skill sets that you look for that make a candidate stand out. I understand it'll be different based on the job. But
Right.
Top 3 that you're like, okay, continue the conversation.
Right. Just their ability to communicate clearly. One of the things that candidates do to recruiters, and I hope that you aren't in the room, but it's almost like when I get some candidates on the phone, I'm in a confessional, and I get everything. I mean, I get dumped. I mean, I completely, the stories that candidates have told me on the phone are just, now, I forget 80% of it because if they're a good candidate, I'll tell them at the end, we got to clean up our communication because I don't need to know if you're transgender. I mean, I'm sorry, but you way gave me too much information. So really specific, guys, gals, get your story down so you can tell who you are and what you've done very quickly and very concisely. But listen, when the recruiter says, I'm calling because I got a vice president of sales job open with this company, don't vomit on their desk. okay? Get ready to ask them another question or let them ask you a question, okay? Be confident in your communications. If you've got anger because you're mad at the last employer because they let you go on a Friday and you thought you had something coming, go on vacation, get rid of that anger, get your head clear. Surround yourself with friends and family and people that love you so that you can get your confidence up. Because if your confidence is only at a 30% and you're trying to go into job interviews, you will fail every time.
You know, the question I asked when a recruiter calls you up is, well, what was it, thank you very much for calling, what was it about my LinkedIn profile that made you call? Because it could be route settlement, which was on page 3 of the thing.
Great question.
That you want to talk about.
Great question. Everybody should make note of that because that is a great question. How did you find me, or what did you find on my LinkedIn profile that you wanted to learn more about? Great question, Jeff. Over here first, and then come back.
Yeah, so how do you become active on LinkedIn without letting your manager or your company know?
So you're confidential, doing confidential search. You can tell recruiters that you're confidentially looking without putting that green ring. So in the settings section, you can say that you're open to work and you want recruiters to know that you're open to work. That was Ryan. The first guy that we looked at, Ryan, he hadn't put the green ring around, but he had told us that he was open because he was in that open to new work opportunity. So he's probably a passive candidate, and he doesn't want to tell everybody in his world that he's looking. That's the best route. Now, you want, depending on who you work for and how much they use LinkedIn and all that, in that summary section, you can also say by your name and phone number, I'm actively or passively looking for a new opportunity that might help me accelerate my career in a specific category. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, Kurt, you had said earlier that job seekers are used to no, and that's something that I've always kind of had going on in my head, and so are salespeople, right? So there's not a whole lot of disconnect between job seekers and salespeople. We're kind of salespeople in a sense. That said, I had built an application, and I just want to share for the room, that helps, just like a salesperson has a CRM, it's a job seeker CRM.
Okay.
And it's opnx.io, free to use. Anybody that wants to use it, try it out. And just wanted to share that. OPNX, opnox.io.
OPNX.
Yeah.
.io. Cool. Question?
If you don't want to put the green ring, what do you feel about the hashtag ONO?
I don't use it, but
You can bury it down and you can, recruiter can search on it, but it doesn't give that visual.
yeah. What I tell candidates is that, so the one guy that wanted to negotiate,
Coming to get you.
that guy that wanted to negotiate, at the end of it, I said, I will fill this job. It's just not going to be with you. Okay? The company hired me to fill this job, so I'm sorry that we can't close it and put you to work, but we will fill this job. So I guess my point is, when recruiters find you on LinkedIn, and hopefully you've got a few new tools that you can use today that you didn't have before, you know what recruiters are looking for, you can see how quickly we go through what we do, and the importance of putting those keywords in there because they do highlight. When we put product manager in there, you saw how it was highlighted. And so our eyes naturally go to those areas. Guys, this has been great. Any other questions?
Okay, I'm going to introduce you guys to people. I'm going to start with ladies first down here. Sarah Jacob, guys, has teamed up with our network. Has been that way for years. She is with TEG. Does anybody in here know what TEG is? Thomas Edwards Group. All right. And Sarah she'll get down in the weeds with us. That's what we're about to do. We're going to get in the weeds. I'm going to bring up stuff, and I want the recruiter's opinion on some of the stuff that I'm bringing up. This dude is my brother. He's my big brother. He's older than I am. No, I'm kidding. He's not. That's Matt Harrington. He is one of the main guys at Matrix Resources. So if you guys are technology based or anything, this guy you want to get to know. He can introduce you to everybody. especially at Matrix. Okay, Gabrielle Carlson, right here in the middle. I'm dragging my stuff around here. Gabrielle and I do the same thing. We are talent acquisition leaders. So Gabrielle is in job search. So if you guys have any ideas of people that Gabrielle should meet, that would be tremendous. Now, I was a talent acquisition leader. You guys probably remember me from the Verizon days. I was actually on TV and stuff. I had fun. So, you know what? Y'all already know this guy, so I'm going to pick on Kevin. Y'all know what Kevin's last name is? Does that name have any significance in here? Land? You're going to land one day, Craig. I'm going to make sure you land. Oh, my goodness. So, guys, and we know this good-looking fella here is my friend Kurt Vandermatter, and he's the only Vandermatter that you guys probably know. So when you go to LinkedIn, hey, there's not a lot of them. Okay, one more thing I want to do. There is a special birthday today that we have. It is Pete Hernandez. There he is. Happy birthday, Pete. Pete is a leader throughout the entire network. You guys will see Pete everywhere. And Pete is a connector like me. We are net weavers, Pete and I. We talk, we go to barbecue. We have a good time, and standing right next to him is our daughter. She might as well be. No, she's like, oh, I'm not. That's Meg Rose Coterio there. But guys, I'm going to do something that you guys don't want me to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let's sing happy birthday to Pete. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Pete. Happy birthday to you. Now you guys understand why I do this for a living. Just kidding. So I want to start off. Let me get my trusty stool back here. When I actually met Paula Poundstone a long time ago. And you guys remember Paula Poundstone? Yeah. She would sit on a stool and do her business and make everybody laugh. Hey, Melissa, good to see you. Guys, I am going to start off with something that we talk about all the time. You guys ask me about that dreaded, okay, I want to put the job description in my resume or in my, what we are submitting the resumes. Sometimes we want to try to we hear people say, oh, we ought to get the white print and put our keywords in there. That comes up a lot in the conversations that I have. So recruiters, what do you guys think about that? And whoever looks like they're ready to come up with an answer, I'm going to run and give you the mic. Well, maybe not run. I'll probably walk. Matt Harrington.
I just wanted to hold the mic. Oh. I don't really have anything to say.
Well, you got it.
I think the new trend is throwing a shoe at someone on stage. Please don't. The only thing I will say is sometimes you're using a title or a word that is maybe something that's what you called it, but it means there's other titles or descriptions that mean that same thing. And just remember, sometimes someone looking through resumes is a brand new recruiter or sourcer or intern within an organization, and they're looking at, it has to have this, yes it does, and it doesn't. And you're like, it's the same thing. That's what I do, but they don't connect that dot. So don't falsify, but if there's a newer terminology for the title that you have or some of the skills and it's called something different now, just understand that and maybe go ahead and use the most updated wording or title or for that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Anybody else? I knew that I'd be coming down here.
Hi, Foster. I totally agree. And I would say to add to that, assume that the recruiters don't understand all the acronyms that are internal to wherever you worked. Or, it could be a recruiter that's an expert in one field, they're not an expert in another field. So baby step it, spell it out for them, make it as easy as you can for the recruiters so that they, because they're not going to be able to translate it necessarily. So make it easy for them. Great question. So I would
repeat that question?
Yeah, the question was, as a job seeker, if you see acronyms in the job that you're not sure what those means, then how do you know whether or not you've got that skill set or that qualification, right? I would start with the Google, right? Google, what does CPA mean? What does X? I mean, some are maybe more known and others you don't know. So start with Google and then ask the recruiter, right? So can you help clarify what that means? Can you help me understand so that I can see if I can translate some of my skills?
Tremendous. Any other questions on this topic? Kim. Different topic? The question is, should we dummy down our resume? So I'm gonna put it out here like this, and then I want to get the expert's opinion. Guys, it's my opinion, and probably I'm gonna look at Kurt out the corner of my eye when I say this. We need to be applying for what we are. Now I know when we don't have a job that the pressure comes on, and well, I can do that job. If I know if I send my resume and they're going to think I'm overqualified for it. Are you? Are you going to stay at that job? When you dummy yourself down and you take a job that's probably paying you a little bit less money, doing a little bit fewer things than what you used to do, especially some of you guys that are in leadership, because there's going to be this Kurt Vandermatter, there's going to be this Foster that's going to find you and have a special position that really is a good one to consider. And the pay is there. Are you going to stay at that job? There's something to think about. Kurt, I'm going to go down here. I'm picking on you.
I think that's absolutely accurate. When you try to go, outside your boundaries and dummy it down, you're only setting yourself up for unhappiness, because you're not going to be happy doing that job. Excuse me. And as Foster said, within a year or less, you're probably going to be looking for a new job. So as recruiters, those are big red flags for us, that, especially if we see that somebody has purposely done that, we ask a lot of questions. Are you really going to be happy? Is this something that you're going to be excited about doing for 5 years? And so I just encourage people that, you want to be happy going to work, happy doing what you're doing. And if you've dumbing down and you're going back 6 levels in your career, but you got a JOB, you're going to be looking again.
Makes sense. Earlier there was talk about recruiting manager or recruiter, and thinking, well, I want to keep myself open to either opportunity, but how should I, shape my profile on LinkedIn? I know I had a similar, kind of question a number of years ago, and it is tough with the profile because you've got to make a decision one way or the other. And I guess it helps if you're applying to something, or if you have an opportunity to submit a resume, then you almost tailor it to what you're looking for. So if you're applying to a recruiting manager, then you want to use that resume that is tailored more for that opportunity. So sometimes helpful to align with the job description, with the needs of the employer, what they're looking for. But but also almost at some point you have to make a decision. Okay, what direction am I going to go in? I know that's what I had to do.
That's awesome.
So
talk about that, Gabrielle. I know you're in a position right now to where you're thinking about and people probably approach you with different ideas about what Gabrielle wants to do.
Well, I wanted to kind of go back to, your resume and should you use white words in the background to help you, get picked out or whatnot. And my recommendation would be to tailor your resume to the job description and use the keywords that are in the job description on your resume before you go apply or before you send it off to that recruiter. And that is what's going to help you get noticed or, set apart from the rest of the applications rather than, stuff behind there. Some applicant tracking systems might pick up on that, believe it or not. And it may not present you in the best light. So that's my 2 cents on that piece. Marketing yourself, it can be a difficult choice. I'll speak for myself, just going through this transition recently, and I think someone else said it earlier that there are not a lot of talent acquisition leadership opportunities in the market right now. And in considering that, right, I've had to look at my background and, say, do I want to go a different direction? Or, continue to market myself as that talent acquisition leader. And I will say to you that it's important to know what you want to do. Because when you talk to recruiters, they will ask you, what is it that you're looking for? What do you want to do for your next opportunity? And you've got to be able to say it 100% with confidence. Because that's the way that they're going to help you. Do you guys want to add anything?
Yeah, it's a strange evolution in this, and I've been doing this a long time, but recruiters aren't looking for jack of all trades. They're looking for experts to come in and help them. And so if you present yourself 2 miles wide and just an inch deep, they're like, well, this person, I don't even really understand what they do. They can't connect the dots. You've got to connect it. To the original question, though, I would say, if you physically watch a hiring manager, if the resume does get to them, they pop it open and they look at it for 2 minutes and then put it in this stack or this stack. So if you've done a lot of things, to me, that's not bad. That's good. But you have to bring to the forefront the things in your past and your experience that apply directly to that job. So you can put the other stuff behind it and even minimize the amount of detail that you have in those other things. But I don't understand it, but they don't want jack of all trades, and they don't want to look at it and say, well, I see this person's done a lot, but I don't really know what they do.
Agree. Yeah. Foster, you want us to just get the next question?
No, you guys are doing well. You guys are the experts. I'm learning. So, you know what? I'm coming, Keenan. I see you. Appreciate you, brother. Here's what I heard, and this is another open ball of wax here. Guys, we get into this, some of us, not all of us, get into this keyword thing, right? I'm going to go to this. What's that website, Pete, that we talk about all the time? Jobscan.co. Okay, you can have a lot of keywords on your resume, but is it in the context that Kurt and Foster are looking for? You've used this keyword. You use that keyword. Is your use of that in the context in which Kurt and I are looking for? I see the keyword thing being done, and I get nervous when I see it because Kurt and I have been at this a little while. So I can bring up a situation, but we got, I don't want to take all of these recruiters' time. I want to get you guys questions answered. So am I doing okay so far?
You're doing great.
Okay. All right. So let me run down here and talk to my buddy Keenan.
Thank you. So from a recruiter's perspective, in addressing the white word thing, a lot of times that will, yeah, maybe show something in the ATS system and it'll give a percentage of match. But as a recruiter, I seldom look at that or rely on that because it's not that reliable. So I'm reading these resumes, and like Kurt said, you can go through a couple of hundred resumes in an hour or two, and it's not a big thing. But if it's in white, then I don't see it. So you have to make sure that the human eyes are seeing it, right? And to the point of trying to say, well, do I dumb down my resume to broaden the number of opportunities? Sometimes, like in my situation, I don't necessarily want to work for somebody else my whole life. I may want to do entrepreneurship as sort of a long term, but oftentimes we have to do what we must in order to do what we want. And that's kind of where I'm sort of finding myself.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir. I saw another question. This is good. This is what we're here to do, guys, is get you guys' questions answered. Brother Ron.
Hey, I'm Ron Layton. My question is, what do you really do with cover letters? See, everybody wants to know.
Okay. As 5 recruiters here, so I expect, what, 15 different? No.
I would say when I was in corporate recruiting, we ignored it. I would say as an agency recruiter, I only read them if I don't know where this person found me, okay? 9 times out of 10, I meet them at an org meeting or somebody brings their resume to me or it's a referral from someone. So I only read it when it's somebody that I don't know. It's my thoughts. It's not going to hurt you, but it very rarely will help you. That's my thoughts, but I will pass it down because you'll get 15 answers.
Okay, here's 1B.
Yes.
So 9 out of 10 cover letters I see are terrible. They're just cut and pasted. Nobody put any time into it, so we throw it away. We delete it. But as an agency recruiter, some clients expect a cover letter, and so the recruiter's now trying to write it. So I would say if you can write a good cover letter, again, going back to connecting the dots in your history that make you a fit for that particular job, not a canned cover letter, not a cut and paste of your resume summary in the cover letter. If it's useful, then that recruiter may get you out the door to the client faster because they don't have to take their time tonight and rewrite your cover letter. So if you're going to do it, do it. If you're just going to put something canned, don't bother. I don't know. No. It's a cover letter where it shows that the person that wrote that cover letter took the time to dig into the job and directly correlate and explain to someone who may not, to the point earlier, understand the technology because they're a recruiter, but maybe not a technology recruiter or finance and accounting recruiter, can directly connect the dots to what you've done in your past, specific projects that you have done with specific examples, not feelings, but actual data to what makes you a good fit for that job. So you have to spend some time studying that job description and get it. I get it. Some job descriptions are just as canned and terrible as some of the cover letters I've seen, right? But control what you can control. So does that help?
I'll say just as a corporate recruiter, 9 times out of 10, we don't look at cover letters. I typically don't. I'm more interested in the resume and looking at what you've done, the companies you've worked at, the experiences you've had, and how that relates to the job that I'm trying to fill.
Same. Most of the time, I skip over the cover letter. I may go back to it if there's something missing in the resume, if there's a gap, I notice, oh, there's a 3-year gap. Maybe sometimes a cover story is good to tell a story. And so I'll go back to it. Why is this person looking to leave their current employer? And if there's something unique, or a lot of times it just kind of fills in questions, so it can be useful. And I think someone said it's something that doesn't necessarily hurt. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it, but most of the time I do just skip, I'll skip over the cover letter, go straight to the resume.
I think they skip them because they're just cut and paste of the
Yeah,
right?
most
So it's
just a
product
generic
of the fact that
version.
people didn't take time to write a good cover letter.
So this is the 15th, and I don't look at cover letters personally, but this is the reason why, is because every search that I do is completely confidential. I don't, when a company hires me as a retained search executive to fill a job, then I'm not going to go out and tell the world what that company name is, because they could have done that themselves. So when I start talking to candidates, they may have a cover letter, but I tell them specifically what I'm looking for, and I will in some cases tell them the name of the company and then ask them to go do their homework. I don't want a cover letter back, but I want details of why you think you're a good fit for this organization. And now I get to hear and see their writing in a way that's very specific for the job that I'm looking for. Do I cut and paste that information? Generally not, but that's some of the data that I do use in order to present candidates.
Interesting. I'm coming, Betty. What y'all think I'm going to say? I love cover letters. That's why I came down here by Kurt. Now, I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. Kurt and I both do a lot of hiring for very senior level positions. Now, I have a relationship, as does Kurt, with our clients. We find out those intangible things that they're looking for. I am going to craft my own job description according to what they're telling me. Now, in that job description, I'm going to bring out some key intangibles, and I'm going to convey that to the people that I think I might want to talk to for that position. And in that cover letter, they're going to help me load my gun, because then I've got to go to my client and say, hey, this is why you ought to talk to Kurt Vandermatter. I had that conversation with him. This is what I'm thinking. So you told me what you want. You've got tangibles, right? We focus on a lot on those tangibles. I need 3, 4, 10 years of this. But what about those intangibles? We don't hire people we don't like, do we? You guys do not hire people you don't like. So I want to try to match everything that I can. I'm kind of known over the years for making good connections. Kurt is more than I. But just something to think about, guys. Now, everybody ain't Foster, thank God. But this question could have a lot to do with what the position is that you are recruiting for. Okay, now who over here? It was Betty had a question. Did I mess it up, Betty? Okay. Oh, good. A new question. I love it. This is what we're here for.
So I'm Betty Lanter, and I think in the previous question, someone referenced 5 years. We're looking at, are you going to do this job for 6 months, a year? We're looking for, but are you going to be happy in 5 years? Looking at placing people, is that what the threshold is like a candidate for 5 years versus many years ago, people were looking at those lifers. Are you going to be here for a career and build and that? And as a person who's not freshly out of school and maybe facing what I would feel is ageism, are people looking at me as a candidate of, oh, is she going to be happy in a year or 5 years or 10 or 20? She's not going to want to still be here. She's going to be on a beach somewhere. So I'm just curious, talk about ageism in sort of a way.
Thanks, man. It's a good question. So while I'm on my way back over to the recruiters, don't forget your place. I forgot something, guys. My buddy, I'm coming, William. My buddy Devin Scott is with us from North Texas Lead. While you guys were at break, Devin, right there, see that guy waving right there? Devin is a friend of mine's son. And Devin's got all of his hair. I used to have hair like Devin got. I promise you I did. I can show you a picture. You don't want to see it. But on your tables is information on North Texas Lead. There's a lot of you people in here that probably want to consider. Now, Devin is new with the company, but his mama is the bomb at that company. And I know because I worked with North Texas Lead for 10 or so years now. So if you have questions about it, ask me. Okay, now let's get back to where we were. We've got to answer questions before I come to you. We've got to answer Betty's question. That was Betty Lanter, not Lander, Lanter, for you guys that might want to connect with Betty on LinkedIn. Okay, who's first? I'm ready to move.
Go that way.
Go.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to say it's not a problem, but I see it sometimes where I work, and so I know I've fussed at hiring managers that have said, oh, this one, too far along in their career. I'm like, but they're qualified for the role, so don't do that, But yeah, I think it can, so I don't want to say it's not, but it's something I think a good recruiting partner, talent acquisition partner would kind of steer the hiring manager away from. We don't want to get caught in an ageism situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, I'm looking at the candidate's qualifications, not their age. If hopefully we can select the top candidate and, they stay with the company 3, 5+ years, great. But as you all know, that, that's a good tenure at an organization these days. So, I'm more focused on that aspect. And to his point, if a hiring manager gives me feedback, well, they're not going to be here, in 2 years, they're going to retire or something along those lines. It's my job to push back on that hiring manager and let them know that, hey, they're perfectly qualified for this role. Here's what they bring to the table, and let's focus on that and go from there.
And if they ever ask you a question like, when are you planning to retire? That's when you're like, you can't ask that question.
Red flag.
Yeah, big red flag. Can't ask that question.
It's a good question, but it doesn't really come up. And so we're like contingent search too. So it's sometimes different because we are different than retained search. But they do look at job history and see, they don't really talk about it, but like, let's look and see what people have done. Have they been somewhere for 3 to 5 years, or every 8 months are they changing? And it's okay to have, sometimes you go somewhere, something happens, like that's okay, but be able to, provide some context around it. But I think more when we share a resume, if we get a negative, it's just this person's a job hopper. We just see too much.
Agree with all of that. I think our clients are looking for candidates who can show some tenure and some longevity in roles, so they don't get excited about resumes where people jump every 8 to 12 to even 15 months. And I would say post-pandemic, though, there's a little bit of grace out there for turnover, for layoffs, for I didn't mean for that to happen. That was not my plan. I took time to be with my family. There's just a lot of grace, or at least a lot more grace. And so I think as long as you're prepared to tell that story and explain kind of what you've been up to and things like that, it's a better scenario than it was pre-pandemic. Specific to the requirements versus how long is a good expectation now, I would say for our clients, it always depends on the role, right? So if it's a mid-management role where they're looking for succession planning to get to that next, then they want someone who's got 5 to 10 years of runway, is how they call it, because they need to make succession plans. So yes, it's based on skill set, but they're not going to hire somebody that they think, right, wrong, or indifferent, is 2 years away from retirement because they're looking for a succession plan for this role. If it's a different role, then it's a different expectation. So it very much depends on the title. It very much depends on the role. But similarly, our clients will ask for, well, I want a green grad, or I want somebody who's got long runway. If it makes sense based on what they're hiring for, then we'll show them candidates. But we are also gonna push away from, ageism or anything like that. We're not gonna let them do that. So it just depends. But I think, again, you've got to think about what is that role? What are they trying to accomplish? Is this a step to get to the next step? Is this somebody in a leadership position that needs to be, more experienced in the people that they're mentoring or not? And so it all kind of depends on the role.
Yeah, I mean, I don't master my age by any means, but they can do simple math. I was at the same company for
Absolutely.
31 years
Yeah.
and do math.
Yes. But I would say also for our clients, I don't hear a lot in our calls now that they need somebody where they're counting on somebody to be there 5 to 10 years. I think there's a new norm, if I'm being honest. I think there's a new norm post-pandemic to where if you can get somebody to stay for 2 or 3 years, that's pretty exciting in some cases. So I think there's a new norm.
I had thought, I forgot to say this, but exactly like, at least with, clients are looking for someone to come in and solve a problem now. Can you solve that problem? They're not really even looking beyond the headlights, when you're driving at night and you can't see they're not. It's like, so if you can get in, add value, solve that problem, hopefully build credibility within the organization to then take on and tackle the next one and the next one. But it's like, what's in front of their nose today?
Yeah. I'm glad we're touching on this ageism thing. Pete has an interesting point that he wants to bring up.
Well, as you guys know, I'm not a recruiter. And by the way, those of you singing, I'm glad you're here getting a real job. But seriously, look, my point of view is one that once you have ageism in your head, you're partially defeated already. Get it out of your head. Keep that positive attitude. If they have a problem like these people have been describing, whether looking at your resume and seeing 31 years or whatever it is, that is their loss. But as far as you're concerned, I can tell you right now, Foster and I are at South Lake Focus every Thursday morning. The people getting up there to announce their jobs, they look like me, they look like him in terms of the gray hair. So it does happen. So if you're going to sit there, sorry, when you used to have hair. So if you're going to go in there with that defeatist attitude already, I'm not going to apply for this, or I'm going to go to the interview just because, wipe that out of your mind. I'm telling you right now, it's an attitude, and that you can control. So stop thinking about the ageism, ignore that, and just apply for the jobs. And you go in there and you sell yourself, and you prove to them that because of your skill set, you can do the job. So that's the only point of view I usually take with people when I talk to them.
I'm glad you said that. You guys know that I participate in networking groups all over the country. Oh my goodness, because the pandemic kind of forced Zoom on us, didn't it? So I can jump in there with them. But you know what? The people that I see landing jobs consistently, again, I'm coming to you, put it down, man, or I ain't coming. No, I'm kidding. Look like Pete and I all day long. So, ageism. Well, Foster just landed a job. Y'all, I just turned down the most awesome job I've been offered in my career 3 months ago. So, hey, that's what.
I'm pretty sure Kurt Vonnemeyer doesn't hire CEOs at 25 years old.
Well, he's got a young kind of thing going right now, don't you?
I didn't, but I have a story. So there's a company that I work for here in town. They're in the technology space, SaaS product. They called me 2 years ago to find a CEO for the company. We found them an amazing candidate. And the day that I thought we were going to make an offer to the candidate, they decided they were going to take somebody different. And they backtracked and they took a candidate that they had internally. He was 29 years old. Fast forward a year and a half later, I was getting off the plane with my wife. We were just coming back from Sicily. And the recruiter called me again. He says, I need a CEO. I said, wait a minute, you just filled it. What happened? Well, he was 29 years old and he couldn't do the job. So the one I'm working in South Texas, they want somebody that's at their end of their career. They've specifically said if we can find somebody that's 60 years old, 55 years old, that's a deal candidate for us. So as a retained search executive, my job is to learn as much as I can about the job and what they're really looking for. When I said 5 years, I think that anytime you take a new job, you should be looking at it for how long can I stay here? Obviously, that's what your best interest is as well. But I think take the ageism out. It's just not, I don't hear it. I just don't hear it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Kurt. Coming to my brother William over here. He has patiently waited on me. All right, lay it on us, brother.
Yeah, of course I'm going to lay it on it. Well,
Mississippi State, I'm sorry.
well, since we mentioned trends earlier, there is one that I have noticed that is extremely alarming. That there are jobs out there being advertised that are paying people wages that are not enough to live on in a third world country. It's a bad look, I think, for like recruiting firms and just even just companies as a whole to be putting this out there. Like why is this happening? I mean, am I surprised by it? No, because as if people didn't know, real wages are down 26 months in a row. Is this because, and since you mentioned new norms, is this starting to become that to try to, lure people in and to look at certain firms?
I know a company right now that I was thinking about when you said that. That's not good. Okay. Anybody want to talk about, we don't want to pay no money.
Hey, due respect, it's not a bad look on recruiting firms because all we are is a conduit for clients. So if you knew how many jobs that we took in from clients and pushed back and said, we can't even look at that, probably on the retained search side too, because you're not in expectations. We show them market data, we show them trends, we show them a lot. We can try and educate, and we do. We are consultants to our clients, and hopefully some of them trust us, and we work together to formulate a solution. But sometimes that's out of our control. Sometimes we don't even work it because we're not going to waste our time working it and spend a lot of time when it's unfillable. And that goes to another subject that I see a lot, where everybody's really angry because they're not getting feedback. They're not getting feedback. As a recruiting firm, we're trying to get feedback. Quite frankly, we're trying every time. We want to make the placement too. Sarah and I don't get anything until we place somebody. And so we're like realtors. And so we're working for free unless we place. So we want feedback too to adjust our search. But sometimes clients aren't going to provide it. One, they may feel they're afraid legally, that legality in this day and age, that they might set themselves up for some legal action. But also, we talked about before, some recruiters have, corporate recruiters, they might have 50 jobs on their desk and they can't go chase down that hiring manager too. So, control what you can control, and don't get hung up, just like don't get hung up on ageism. It's their fault. If they do that to you, move on. But if you don't get feedback, we're trying to get you feedback, and we're trying to get the right salary expectations as well. So just know that if you are ticked off about it, it comes out in your postings, it comes out in your interviews, and it hurts you.
I was just going to say, we've actually seen salaries going up over the last year and a half. So it's very dependent on the role. It's very dependent on, is it part-time, full-time? It's very dependent on, is it hourly or salaried? It's very dependent on, is it, corporate or other? But for most of our clients and most of those positions that we're hiring for, we've seen salaries go up quite a bit. It's been a candidate market for the last 18 months. So it is absolutely real, but it also is very, very dependent. And I would say, especially if you guys spend any time at all looking at what's going on in New York and Chicago and the Bay Area, it's very affordable to live here compared to some of those. And so we've seen it. We just haven't maybe seen it as much. We've seen some candidates have had some really good luck.
Didn't you have a $300K for the 140 person?
Right.
Which one? Which? Okay.
I would like to better understand the recruiter's experience with a candidate asking straight up what the bracket is, or any type of interactions that you have with people
So, folks, the question was payism. What are we seeing in payism? What are some of the details that we're seeing that could possibly lend us a little bit more money than what we're looking at for this position kind of thing? So,
So pay, first and foremost is that, there's a lot of recruiters that don't take my approach, and that's fine. It's not mine, it's the only approach. But one of the very first questions I always ask candidates is, what's your salary? What's your current salary? Okay? And the reason I tell them I ask that question, and it is for one reason, it's because I got to find out if we're in check. If the candidate that I'm talking to is making $500,000 and I've only got a budget of $250,000, I could spend 4 hours on the candidate. He may be the best candidate in the world, but there's no way I'm going to be able to get the company to go up that high. And there's no way that candidate's going to be happy going down that low. I know I'm using exaggerated numbers, but I think it expresses the same thing. So don't be afraid to tell a recruiter what you make, okay? I always present candidates that are above what the company's given me for budget, because if it's a great candidate, they need to see the flux in the market, that this is what you get for $100,000, this is what you get for $150,000. And they need to see that difference, and it's their decision, not mine, okay? When a company hires somebody, I always tell candidates, I'm not the one making the decision. As I told you earlier, I will find somebody to take this job, but it's not my final decision. So pay is the hardest thing a candidate can talk about, but don't discount yourself and just be honest up front.
okay, we are about to cut out. Uh-oh, Bill's going to point the gun at me here in a minute. Guys, these questions are absolutely awesome. We could spend probably 2 more hours easily answering these questions. But before we go, real quick, in the last 2 minutes that we have, recruiters, I have observed a little bit. I want you guys' opinion on it real quick. Post-pandemic, it seems like recruiters and hiring companies are not as hard on gaps in our resume. I've been out for a year. Okay. We had a pandemic. I've been out for 2 years. Okay. We had a pandemic. Let's talk about it a little bit. I've been out for 3 years. Let's talk. So, real quick, guys, and this will be our last question. I apologize because this is going good. I'm loving this. Anybody want to chime in on that? I was standing behind Gabrielle because Gabrielle and I have to, when we're working for corporations, we have to put out the fires with the in-department managers, the leaders. We have to go to them and say, hey, we're not being realistic on this thing, guys. This is what you guys are looking at. It's what the market is holding. This is what you guys are looking at. Are you ready to handle what you got to pay and other things? That's what Gab and I do. Okay. Gab.
Yeah, so I'll say with regards to, gaps in your employment or, if you've been laid off a couple of times, that employers now are more forgiving of that since the pandemic, especially. If you've been in, 2 or 3 jobs because you took a job, you got laid off, things like that. Again, companies are more forgiving. Just make sure that you're upfront with the recruiter when you're talking to them to let them know. Be transparent about it. Is my best advice. And you can also, comment to that on your resume. You could say laid off due to pandemic, COVID, whatever the case may be. That can also help the recruiter too when they're looking at your resume to go, oh, okay, well, that's why they left that job and they were only there for 6 months or a year. Pay philosophies too vary by organization. And, every organization takes into account where they want to be regarding compensation, their total compensation package, as well as their benefits. And, all of those things come together. So some companies choose to pay a little bit lower. Some companies choose to pay a little bit higher than market. And, that's just for you to determine as you're considering job opportunities and the organization, the opportunity itself, and taking all of that, into consideration for your own, personal situation.
I was just going to second that because the side that you might not see as a job seeker is the internal inequities that are happening on the compensation side. So it might be that the market says this role should come in at 150K, but they already have somebody who's managing that role that's at 130K, and they can't adjust that person, so they can't hire. So there's all sorts of stuff behind the curtain. So be open, be honest, know what you're worth, and try to go get it, certainly. But there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. And yeah, I think I said it earlier, there's a lot more grace and patience now with gaps in employment or things like that. I would say be ready to tell your story, be ready to talk about what you have been doing. Have you been volunteering? Have you been spending more time with your family? Have you been caretaking a family member? Have you been keeping up with your certifications or LinkedIn trainings or whatever you've been doing? Be sure you're ready to tell that story, because that shows that you weren't just sitting around doing nothing, but there's a little more grace.
All right. Keep that positive too, because sometimes you got laid off and you're ticked off, and then that comes out, well, tell us about this, and then you get going and you get a little bit mad, and I was like, look, don't hire that. They're like, oh, or the last 3 gaps, every time was the employer's fault. Every time you point to, you just got to be careful with that.
All right. Let me say this. This is a question for you guys. Who determines what we go to work for? What'd you say, Jama? Jama says we do. Know where you need to be. Talk to your wife. Talk to your husband. Figure out what we've got going on here. We need to know where we need to be, guys. In this world, we turn on the TV and all kind of crazy stuff happening. I think yellow freight went upside down yesterday, I think it was. Guys, I don't go to work to barely make it. So let's be realistic, but let's make the proper decision. We determine what we go to work for. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Thank you, recruiters.